Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the chill session of conclusions for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine as of right now, which is still the 20th of February, I believe, for half the world. So we're going to talk about some of the. So what we'll be talking today is, of course, the latest frontline situations, which I will talk a little bit about, and also my latest article, which is based on the video that I've done on the main channel regarding the casualty numbers. Because ultimately the video is more like how I get to it, and generally the general numbers. But I think it's still pretty messy. So I will talk about it. The casualty numbers and how long Ukraine is going to last, and what's the geopolitical implications as well. I'll talk a bit about this in this video as well. So because the other video is a bit more technical. It's like, yeah, how we get to that number, and ultimately I just want to say it's an estimate. Don't get so caught about it. It's entertainment. Just for your enjoyment, to masturbate your mind. It's just nothing to do with realities. Okay, so just like this mapping, as I always say, this mapping here is not reality. No, this is not reality. This is just a representation, an estimate of where the front line is. So control yourself. Okay, so let's start off. There's some major updates. The most important, again, we are back to Andreevka front, and we have finally seen the reality. Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, has finally updated the reality, and the entire this Ulakly salient. Let me click this. The Ulakly salient has collapsed entirely, and you can see within 24 hours they've mapped this much changes, which is clearly already gone a long time ago. At least this has happened across the past few days. They just refuse to map it this way. Russian forces basically have taken everything west of Dashne, north of Yantarne, north of Sukiali, and basically taken everything. The salient between Constantinople and Ulakly also, of course, has fallen entirely. This is I already reported this during the frontline changes report, and you can see this is the reality. How much has fallen within this area here, and this is basically corroborates what I already told you guys, that it's just impossible for the Ukrainians to actually have a foothold in any of these places because of the tactical situation that is happening in this sector. So and to rehash a little bit why that's the case is because if you look at this, where the new frontline changes are, Russian forces at these two locations basically cut off the entire road. This road cannot be used, so the Ukrainians can't really cross. And there is this river. Over here, the Voschar River. There's another river up north, which of course does shows because of the Russian forces are here. This of course is already can't possibly have Ukrainians over there as well. That is part of the eastern part of the Andriivka. So because of this river, and there's no clear ways to cross or able to navigate this area here easily. Of course, they can cross it. There's farms there. That means there's bridges for them to cross. But in the battlefield scenario, going there and walking around here, just waiting to be killed by FPV drones. There's no easy way for vehicle access. You have to walk all the way out. So clearly, the entire region here has no longer been under Ukrainian control for at least 2-3 days. So it's just the Ukrainians refuse to update. You see, Deep State UA on the 19th, they only reached the front line here. Suddenly on the 20th, the front line is here. So this is just a sign that they were just trying to withhold the information for as long as they can. But this leads to the confirmation that Dashne has been captured. So in the Andriivka front as well, they have redrawn because they have put themselves into an impossible situation because of the way how they mapped it. This becomes a Ukrainian encirclement because of the way how Deep State UA has mapped it. So in their own mapping, they changed to put that the Russian firm control is actually in the north, which is something that they probably are unable to deny right now. And they put this area here back into gray zone. So suddenly the Russian lines is in the north and looking like this, and so that the Ukrainians could now retreat. At least on paper, they can now retreat out of this location. But because we follow that mapping, and this entire area here, that this green line here, they have not put it as Ukrainian control. They put it as gray zone. So by our principle is that if they put it as gray zone, we don't change our map. So as a result, on our mapping, Ukrainian forces is encircled. So that's what happens. And personally, I felt like this entire area is already under Russian control as well. So is this area. So all these areas are all under Russian control. I have mentioned this quite a number of times. I just want to rehash, in case you are someone that haven't seen my previous videos, this is the reality right now. And in fact, the Ukrainian forces can't possibly be here as well. They're not going to be here as well. The main reason is because Russian forces have already reached this part of Constantinople, which means the highway here is already cut. They can't use this road here, and which means the Ukrainians can only go north. But you see, we have already Russian presence in this sector, meaning that they have already cut their road on the north. The Ukrainians put it as a gray zone because they cannot admit that the Russians are there. If they admit the Russians are there in a firm position, then they will have to accept that the Ukrainian forces over at Constantinople and Ulakly is fully encircled, including all the other Ukrainian forces over here at Shevchenko. So they have mapped themselves into a corner, just like the Europeans support Ukraine and trap themselves in a corner when Donald Trump actually went against Ukraine. So yeah, everybody's in a corner right now. So the reality is that the most likely situation, not fact, most likely situation is that the Russian lines is actually here. This is the Russian line, and everything here is Russian control. This is most likely the current situation right now. It's just that they can't map it like this immediately. If they map it like this immediately, it will cause panic. To whatever supporters that they have, outside of Ukraine. This is what I think. People inside of Ukraine doesn't matter, because you guys have no choice. So, but outside of Ukraine, they were like, wow, what the hell? And trust me, things is going to get worse. So the other major things that happened is over here at the Velika Novosylka sector. Russian forces have advanced further. Again, very big chunk of territory taken. This chunk is 2 kilometers deep. This one is around 1 kilometer over. So which means that the Russians are actually winning the battle here very significantly, because this is the one-day change. A one-day move for 1 kilometer means that they are winning. The Ukrainians are hardly defending this area already, because there is already previous frontline changes. So the Ukrainians have basically the defense line here has broken. So it remains to be seen where the Ukrainians are going to put the next line of defense. Because of course, if you talk about in a very normal way, in a normal situation where the Ukrainians still have combat capability, they would defend this line. There's these various lines here. They would probably defend all these areas here, and hold this line here, because this line looks like a pretty decent line to defend on. But if you see the next update that we are reporting in the next 1 or 2 days, the Russians overrun this position, then there is no more combat capability left on the Ukrainian side. Because this is a good place to defend. If they don't defend here, then we are going to see a massive withdrawal, even that the Ukrainians may not even, they will not even defend Belatske, Privone, or Venipole. They might even not even defend Shevchenko. There's a chance. They might just go back to this line of defense and hope for the best. There's a chance that could happen. But tentatively, let's watch and wait and see how this goes. The Russians are on a major offensive in the Velika Novosylka front, along with this consolidation of the NDFK front by the Russian forces. So this is the main gist of the Russian push. The entire Pokrov sector the Pokrov front have went quiet only over in the northern flank. The Russians are making this major push over at Zelene Pole, and they have allegedly captured it with massive frontline changes, which is now acknowledged by Deep State UA that the Russians have indeed made this push over here. Previously, the Russians have been wanting to take this this highway exchange. The Russians were pushing here, and when the Ukrainians are putting their concentration here, the Russians push Baranivka and Zelene Pole and Tarasivka. So the Ukrainian forces redeploy over here, and the Russians make a serious push towards Melanivka, and they manage to capture some grounds. Now that the Ukrainians return to this Melanivka and they actually retook the highway exchange, the Russians now push Zelene Pole. So you can see how the Ukrainians are getting played around here, because the Russians are attacking from this position from Vozdevizhenka, pushing out. They can adapt left to right pretty easily, but the Ukrainians have to cross rivers and go around and around. So it's a bit more logistically not significant, but a little bit more troublesome for the Ukrainians in this area here. It's not like that much, but just technically it's just a bit more difficult, because this is the Russian logistic. They just need to go around here, but the Ukrainian logistic is much bigger. This is what I mean. So a little bit more difficult, not significant, but this still leads to the Russians manage to capture all these grounds. The Ukrainians managed to take back a quite pointless place, which is the highway exchange. For now, there is no defense. There's no much positions to hide, except for some trees over here, which is really not much. And then below the bridge, which is prime place to get yourself killed by FPV drone. So this is not a good place to hold position, which is why the Russians gave it up to the Ukrainians, whereas the Russians now push this sector, which is way more valuable. You can see all these tree lines is all pretty good to hold positions in, and soon we're going to start to have the battle of Tarasivka. And so this is the main thing over here. Strategically, this wouldn't be much for now. I did mention a long time ago the Russians could potentially attack all the way up north across all these open grounds, and then hit eastward, cut off the road over at Alessandro Kalinove, and collapsing the New York front. Although the New York front now is already conquered in a frontal attack, but this could still happen. And with the cutting off of this road from the north, and the Russians are now already trying to push out from Skrebnivka, Leonidivka region, they could potentially pincer the road. Cutting off the road would mean that this entire front line here becomes a encircle, which the Ukrainians will just abandon position, from what we have seen before when the Russians pull off this kind of a strategic move. So this could still potentially happen. There's not much defense lines. If you look at it, it's just tree lines. So it is possible for the Russians to make this push. But would they want to do it, or would they want to keep the Ukrainians here in a impossible position where they're just getting killed off, slowly grind away, because they're trying to hold totally destroyed defense lines? Remains to be seen. There is also some updates over in Kharkovivka, Russian forces taking some grounds. So that's one thing in Bakhmut. Other front lines, I think it's pretty nothing burger, except for Voreshna. So Voreshna traditionally has always been a pretty lack of intel. There's not much intel always coming out from this region here. So but the thing is, battles are ongoing. There is fighting at Kindrashivka, as per reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. There is fighting report at Kokivka, and so there is some fighting around here. So we could potentially see frontline changes in the future. That we just drop from the sky, like suddenly appear, and then we'll be like surprised. This continues to be a massive threat for the Ukrainian forces, because it's not known to have very heavy defenses, because these are basically the rear positions. So if the Russians break out from this sector, it could become massive problem for the Ukrainians. This could collapse the entire front lines at the border, and this could also means that the Ukrainians may abandon Voschansk entirely, because if the Russians manage to reach the Seversky Donetsk River around here, okay, let me use that color, the Seversky Donetsk River here, if the Russians reach all the way to this point, that capture this crossing over here, then we can see this entire area collapse into Russian control. And this is getting more and more important because now there is starting to have some kind of a timer starting because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has started to speak to Putin, and it seems like the negotiation towards the end of this war has begun. EU, the Europeans, and Zelensky, representing Ukraine, can say whatever they want. The problem is that without US support, without US lead, the Europeans are unlikely to be able to sustain the support of Ukraine for very long, unless Europe go into wartime economy, which they won't, because they can't even survive peacetime economy. Like, they're struggling with peacetime economy right now because of competition from China. Because they cut off energy supply from Russia, which increased costs for every single thing. And when energy costs increase, petrol costs increase, everything increased. So when everything increased, economic efficiency drops and everything went to shit. Everything is more expensive. So they are now not in a good game. And then with Donald Trump now back in the White House, means that US economy is going to surge. They're going to cut even more taxes. They're going to cut even more regulations, means more efficiency in US economy. They are also now strong arming everybody in the world into through tariff, to either pay the tariff or absorb let the consumer absorb the tariff cost, which means that it's less competitive for the products in United States, or they actually invest in building up their factories in United States, which will boost US economy. And this also means very bad news for Europe, because Europe had been benefiting from free trade towards United States for most of the time. So they are now getting squeezed on both sides. The Russians and the Americans both are squeezing the Europeans, and they are now getting blackmailed by Ukraine, because Ukraine now attack openly against Donald Trump, means that United States support for Ukraine is as good as gone. JD Vance have came out to say that that is a super bad idea to attack Donald Trump personally. And JD Vance basically said that anyone that worked with Trump knows that if you personally attack Trump, it's not going to go well. So it's almost as good as gone. US support for Ukraine. So it's going to be Europe all on their own supporting Ukraine, and that is the worst possible situation for Europe, because expensive energy price, because they cut themselves off from Russia, and then they have huge welfare overheads, because they are all mostly welfare states, and then that means they are high taxes and everything. So economically, it's already very inefficient, and then they have high competition from United States, and then now they still have to support Ukraine on their own. It's just the worst position they have put themselves into, and they are now openly hostile to United States. So because of the Ukraine situation, and of course all these many of these countries are pretty woke, so which is totally against the philosophy of Donald Trump, which is anti-woke. So things are very, very bad for Europe. So in Kursk, there is new reality. The Russian forces have taken Svetovo. This is actually the wrong color. It should be pink. So Russian forces have taken Svetovo. This is the main big news over in Kursk, and Ukrainian mapping have mapped huge chunk of the grounds taken. This alone is 5.66 square kilometers, so this is pretty big. So otherwise the Kursk is still pretty much the grinding zone for the Russians, from the Russian perspective. For the pro-Ukrainian guys, my personal view is that, as you may think that the Russians are so lousy, they took so long, they still are unable to kick the Ukrainians out. The truth is that the Ukrainians are grinding themselves out in Kursk. That's what I think. Because instead of sending troops, try to hold back the Russians elsewhere, they are burning troops over in Kursk. And the Russians, generally speaking, this is a very, very countryside place for them. This is not a major place for them. This is not urban center. This is not city. They are pretty fine with the buildings here getting destroyed. but the Ukrainians are defending this useless land. This as much as the size of Russia, this is a countryside. This is pretty useless. So they are not in a hurry. So because there is a lot of ground they can conquer over in Kharkiv, and the thing is that when you look, so in the grand scale of things, the Russians are now known that, like I said, the clock is now ticking. So the Russians is now potentially going to speed up their offensive. Potentially, we do not know when the war will end. But the Americans are worried, and the Russians are also worried, because once the peace deal comes in, then there might be a chance where the Russians may not be able to take more grounds that they have not conquered. So conquered grounds starting to get a bit more important, and which is also why we might see the Russians starting to attack more heavily into Kharkiv in the near midterm future. With Voreshna, this already helps to secure the territory all the way up to the Seversky Donetsk River, which by itself is a pretty good defense line, pretty good border, because it's a river. So that could happen, and we shall see how this goes. The more defiant Ukraine is, and the worse it's going to be for Ukraine, because the Russians were going to see they're going to use that as an excuse to conquer more ground. So, and then that comes to the casualty numbers that let me on a light from the other side. So this comes out. So I changed the screen. So this is basically the result from the video that I've did on the main channel. So on the main channel, I did this estimate on the casualties. I do not want to do this for a long time, but since a lot of people asked for it, and it just happened that Grok 3 appeared, and just happened that NWE, the EN from NWE Geopolitics or NWE War Reports, was talking to me about this, and I just happened to also ask Grok 3 to see what it answers, and I basically went into this rabbit hole and started to argue with it, and eventually we managed to come up with numbers. This is DPA's estimate. This is not Grok's estimate. You have to understand, Grok or any other AI platform, be it DeepSeek or ChatGPT, they are just tools. They're just like calculators. You cannot say that this number come off by this calculator. No, the numbers come up from you. You use the calculator to come off. So this is a DPA's estimate. So I just want to own it. I want to own it. So let's just do this zoom. So this is this is the article that comes out directly from that research. So this is an easier version to read than to give you the link of the AI conversation and with me, which I can actually, but I feel like it's very confusing if I do that. So I rewrote this article with the help of course with Grok, and to write this. So this is an analytical partner, Grok 3, which is I see him as my research assistant. Basically, it's just like in university, the professors will have research assistants, and the grunt work will be done by the assistants. So similarly, Grok 3 is my assistant to do all this numbering and do all the research. So he does all the research work. I point him in the right direction. I point the way. No, because I lead some al-Qaeda. I am the Madib. So for this case, and so our total finding in conclusion is that the Ukrainians have 1.8 million casualties, of which 900,000 of them is dead. Half of them is dead. So for the Russians, so this just jumping to the conclusions in a sense that 250,000 dead with total casualty of 0.7 million. So 700,000 people casualties for the Russians, with 250,000 of them died. Of course, there are a lot of arguments from the pro-Russian peeps saying that no, it's half of this number. It's only 120 over 25,000 or something around that. It doesn't matter. For me is that this number is a bit if you know, for the Russians, for the pro-Russian guys that are watching, just take it, accept it as on the higher end, and it helps with analysis. Because if you be too pro-Russian in your numbers, then you're going to have a warp analysis. So just like when I used to do analysis, as I said on the Duran, I say that when I do analysis, I'm going to always assume that it's 1-to-1 in terms of the battlefield situation. It's always going to be 1-to-1 casualties. So one Ukrainian died, one Russian died. That is a good way to do analysis so that you don't get affected by bias. Of course, then you build from there, then you put in all the other circumstances like air supremacy, heavier artillery, lack of artillery on the other side, and then missile advantage, Lancet, FPV drones, defense, FPV drone with optic fibers, and then you start to build on from there, from 1-to-1, then you can reach to 1-to-3 to 1-to-7 casualties. You can reach there. But if you just assume that the Russians are so much better, then you're going to have a totally warped analysis. So you have to build from 1-to-1. Similarly, I would say that build from here. The Russians lost 250,000, and then you can kind of sense a bit more on what Putin might do or might decide. This is just my advice. But of course, feel free to disagree. I'm very open to people disagreeing with me. Of course, you have an argument, but it's still pretty fine. So yeah, so this is it. Yeah, so some pictures just to make the article, to break up the article so it doesn't look so bad. So the how a lot of these numbers, the formulas or at the basis actually come from the Kursk, because Kursk is a very recent phenomenon. The Kursk invasion or the Kursk offensive started on August 6th last year, and from there is a lot more numbers that came out. There's a lot more details. There's a lot of information regarding the total area captured, total area recaptured by the Russians and everything. So, and that helps us to build a basis for our hypothesis. So the Russian MOD declared 60,000 Ukrainian casualties. So and then with that, these casualties we estimate that maybe it's 20. This estimated by Grok, by 25,000 is actually killed. So from there, then I also made it calculate based on the front lines. So there's around 3.4 casualties per kilometer per day. Honestly, this is very realistic, because if you think about it, random artillery shells, maybe FPV drone strike, getting hit, 3.4 casualties per kilometer is actually pretty realistic. So if you take a look at distance, so 1 kilometer is something like this. So this 2 kilometers, this is Goevo, by the way. So this 1 kilometer. So this is plausible, like, because FPV drones will fly around, they look for target and they crash and then kill someone. So so this is not an impossible estimate. So there is a possibility. And yeah, so the investment, these are all the history, not important. So let's look at sustainability for Kursk. So the estimate right now is that from what we see, and based on what we understand from other calculation about replacement rates on the Ukrainian side, the Kursk is not going to last very long. It's going to reach maybe, I think, May to August. The breaking point will be between May to August 2025, which is a few months time, between 3 to 6 months. The Ukrainians will start to lose too many troops to the point where they will have to redraw. So that is the estimate. So that's the current estimate. So this is the soldier. They take photo in front of this. The Ukrainian soldiers take photo in front of the convenience store. So in terms of the casualty rates, so the casualty rates, of course, I think the most important thing is how long Ukrainians can last. But total numbers, our estimate is 900,000 dead. My own gut feeling is 1.2 million. But no, my gut estimate is 1.2 million soldiers dying. But the Grok 3 leans towards a lower number, which is 900,000, which he took as the basis. But he did estimate 1.8 million casualties, which is actually a huge number. But it's true that if I think that 900,000, 1.2 million dead, then there should be a lot more people who died. So 1.8 million injured, and injured plus died, I think it's something I can accept as an estimate. So this is my estimate. So 900,000 dead, I think it's about there. So this means this adjusted is that this is how much, this is blah 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 blah. So scale to 1,000 kilometers. So yeah, so this is basically the Russian casualties we counted in a slightly similar but different way, because I did remind the AI that the Russians are not on the offensive all year round for 3 years. They actually only attack in the beginning, and then they were on the defensive. They basically hold their ground for as long as they can, and then Ukrainians went on the offensive in September of 2022, and then the Russians continued to hold in 2023, except for the Wagner forces, which were attacking from Popasna out towards Bakhmut, and then the Battle of Bakhmut happened. And then, of course, we also have some crazy commanders over in Velika Novosilka went for some suicide. Voleda offensive. They went for some suicide Voleda offensive. They got crushed, and so those days, the Russians do take more casualties, and and then of course, then we have 2024 where the Russians went on the full offensive. That's when we saw the fall of Avdiivka, the Voleda, and then the beginning of the Pokrov fronts and everything. So, and then of course that means the Russians also will take more casualties because they are on the offensive. So scaling and calculating, so Grok do all the calculation. I didn't do the calculation. Grok did the calculation, and the final number we have is around between 500,000 to 800, almost 900,000 people injured or died, total casualties. So which the total death number is between 185,000 to almost 300,000, and then he took 250,000. So in a lower end of the scale, it could be 185,000 people died on the Russian side, and then total casualties is half a million, which is not impossible, because the Ukrainians are not. It is not some sleeper wearing militias with zero military training. I mean, they have very formidable weaponries, very accurate artilleries. They have good FPV drone strikes. A lot of logistics got destroyed, so it's not impossible for a lot of casualties across 3 years. So it is possible, but definitely I also feel like the Russians do not take as much casualty as the Ukrainians, because they do not defend stupid places. So Ukraine tend to defend stupid places. So that's what it is. So that this Bakhmut. So sustainability is of course the main thing that I want to talk about. How long can Ukraine hold on? So first we try to find out these three numbers. First is how many troops do they need to defend everything, all the front line in Ukraine, and how many they have lost, and how fast are they losing, and then how long their remaining troops can last given their current replacement rate. So that's the sustainability. So number one, Grok helped me calculate the front line. The total front line is around 1.1 thousand, so 1.1 thousand kilometers, and so he said that based on military guidelines is around 500 to 1,000 troops per kilometer to defend, to hold a defensive line, and the low end is 500 soldiers per kilometer. On the high end 1,000, and then they did some calculation and how many troops is needed. So for Ukraine to actually operate, they would need 550,000 troops to 1.1 million active troops to man the entire front line. So this is based on Grok's estimate. So I would imagine this number looks pretty there, and then this includes reserves. If I would imagine, no, It's without reserves. So this without reserves, and of course, I would say this number also is a little bit on the higher side, because this doctrine about 500 to 1,000 troops per kilometer. I would say that this is a bit of a traditional modern military doctrine. If you look at the current front line, not this many troops is on the front line because of the power of accurate artillery, the power of FPV drones, the accuracy of all these things. You can see that battles are being fought between 20, 30 people on both sides. So you're talking about like every battle there's no more than 50 soldiers involved to capture a town, for example. So it is not that many people sometimes in a single offensive operation against a village. So to say we need 500 soldiers per kilometer, yeah, I think that include the positions all the way to the rear. So it will not be just all at the front line. It's going to be like out of, let's say, the low end of the 500, you have 50 in the front, and then 50, and then more 50, like it's defense in depth with operational HQ and everything. So yeah, so that's it. So the number is a bit on the higher side, I would say, and then they include all the reserves. So the estimate is that for what the Ukrainians currently have is around 500 to 700,000. And then so this is definitely slightly below the low end if they have only 500,000. But if they have 700,000, then it should cover. And I feel like it's currently more or less that's what is happening right now. The Ukrainians can still fight because they have enough. And like I say, this is based on the previous military doctrine. You probably don't need that much soldiers to defend a single kilometer. So so while the Grok's analysis is that the Ukrainians are short, currently there's a shortfall, I would say that it's still defendable, but right now at this moment. So barely enough, which is not wrong. So we can see these are some scenes of the force mobilization. So how many troops the Ukrainians have lost and losing? So ignoring all the calculations, you can actually take a look at this yourself. I will put the link in the description below. So the total, the lose rate worldwide is around 2,000 to 3,000 casualties per day across the whole of Ukraine. And so this means that and this basically minus they did across the 1,092 days is around 800 soldiers dying a day on average for the Ukrainian side. And so based on the total amount of troops, we estimated it's around 2 million maximum. This is a very positive, this is very optimistic in a way that Ukrainians in total managed to recruit 2 million soldiers. The estimate is 1.8 million has been injured. So that means left with 200,000, adjusted to 300 to 400,000 feet. So feet soldiers. Yeah. So this is the situation. So 90% of the 2 million max is allegedly, based on this estimate, based on this way of calculation. I'm not saying this reality, but based on this way of calculation, 90% of the troops has already injured at least once. So or they died or they did. So and estimate the Ukrainians have around 300 to 400,000 troops that is still fighting fit. Later I will have another section that talks about the current strength. So sustainability, based on all these numbers that we have, we are looking at around, let's see. So looking at around the 300 to 400,000 troops can last around 3 to 6 months. So we are talking about between May to August 2025, which is not far from now. It's only between 3 to 6 months from now, and we are talking about continuation of the losses at the current rate, and yeah, so and then the gains is based on the recruitment rate. The replacement rate is very low. The replacement rate, so what we have right now is around between, they are recruiting around 274 to 548 per day. This is based on our estimates. So yeah, so the replacement rate is a bit too low, and this is clearly shown when we see that all this forced mobilization, all this recruitment, hunting for men on the streets. So we clearly see the strain on the Ukrainian side for sure. So so this is we're talking about 3 to 6 months, and 3 to 6 months doesn't mean that the line will collapse. I mean, that doesn't mean that the Ukraine will surrender, but you will start to see massive collapse of front lines. So because they no longer have enough troops to hold the front. Like for now, at this moment, we are already seeing signs of this is happening. Russian forces is gaining on a daily basis, and this is when the Ukrainians is still able to somewhat fight, but they are not fighting very efficiently because they are taking too many losses. So many of the units are not cohesive. They are not trained together. They don't know each other. They may not even know the unit next to them. So a lot of all this contradiction. I believe History Legends talked a lot about it before already in his videos. So you can also check out History Legends videos about all these manpower issues. So these inefficiencies means that even if they have the numbers, without the equipment, without the artillery support, without the air support, they are not holding the grounds well, and the numbers are just dwindling. So that's why I say the broader crisis means 3 to 6 months. So by 3 to 6 months, we will see total collapse of front lines, and we start to see major captures, major advancements by the Russian forces. You can see, scraping the barrels. And this is prison. So this is actually, the soldiers going to prison to recruit. Yeah, you can see his face. Yeah, oh my God, he's like, oh my God. So is this sustainable? No. According to Grok say that this 3 to 6 months left is past sustainable. They're understaffed, outpaced, and collapsing in the middle of 2025. So that is the current. So Grok, this is not written by me. Grok say that no, all these shows they are done. So Grok is a bit brutal in but they say that this past sustainable, and I would say that to win the war, of course, is past sustainable, but to hold the front line, I would say is still sustainable, but until middle of 2025, and then everything will just hit the fan. So then because the numbers, the way how the Grok write it is a bit confusing, so I told it to also break down the current troop numbers. So this also helps to understand why we get the number 2 million. So the 2 million comes because there is a total force of 6.8 to 7.7 million fit people. So which is between 18 to 60. So this is between 18 to 60. That means include the people that cannot be mobilized. Okay, so because I think the age is now at 24, but they are talking about dropping it to 18. But of course, that's not going to add a lot of people. So which is 70% of the 9.75 to 11 million males in Ukraine. So we estimated that not everybody want to fight, not everybody can go and fight. And there is, of course, a percentage of the people that is willing to fight. And Grok say that based on the previous wars, like, in United States, like in Vietnam is like around 10%. I think the Soviet Union during World War II is around 20%. So that was based on the previous video that you can see. He estimated maybe 20% is willing to fight. So that comes out with the number of 1.36 to 1.54 million males in Ukraine that is willing to fight for Ukraine. And so these the people that you don't need to force, they will come and fight. And this of course include people up to 18 years old. So and when they mobilize, of course they started off with 250,000 troops, perhaps even 300,000 troops, and with 500,000 reserve. So with the mass mobilization, they likely have hit 1.5 to 2 million in total mobilized, closer to 2 million. This is what Grok believe. So this includes people that don't want to fight. Is already in this number. And someone in the Telegram comment asked me about the mercenaries. Mercenaries, I would say you just put it within this 2 million. I think it's fair because the numbers is not massively huge. It's still big, still significant, but you have to consider that this is just an estimate. So no, putting the mercs in these numbers, no, I think it doesn't change anything. So which is why 2 million, generally speaking, is on actually a very positive number. This is as good as it could get for Ukraine. So this is the bright side. This is actually an optimistic number. 2 million is an optimistic number. So don't believe that this is the pessimistic. This is as good as the Ukraine can ever do. It's 2 million. So of course, unless they start to kill off everybody, like basically forcibly send everybody, which is not possible. Actually, honestly, it's not possible. They already forcibly try to mobilize as much as they can. But the thing is that the recruiter themselves might be mobilized as well. So unless you force recruit, which is really, it's just not possible. No, it's just not possible. So 2 million is the total number of troops that we believe that has been put into fight, since the war started. And of course, this is an optimistic number. And so far, in their estimate, the calculation based on Grok's crunching of the numbers, they believe that out of 2 million, 1.8 million is already injured, killed or wounded, or captured. And they believe that 900,000 of them is dead. So based on the calculation, this came from the Kursk casualty numbers. So they adjusted according to all the different front line and whatnot. But like I said, my own estimate is 1.2 million. So but so it's 1.2 million, but yeah. But Grok say that 900,000 makes more sense. So we balance out around there. So of course, this sounds like an impossible number. Like how to imagine you got 2 million soldiers and 1.8 million of them is already casualties. It's possible. Because it's possible. Because of course, like I say, 2 million is the optimistic number. Of course, if the total number is not 2 million, of course, this total casualties is not going to be 1.8 as well, because this is a percentage count. But the fact that they are losing grounds every day, the fact that all the offensive has failed, a lot of these units is gone, and a lot of the units, a lot of the new regiments and the existing regiments, either they are disbanded or they are very low on their preparation. That they are like 20% manned, 30% manned, 40%, and 40% is considered good. And while they are still trying to build up the forces, the units, they're trying to group up and recruit and fill up the numbers and then train them. While they're doing that, the people that is already recruited got sent to the front line. If you have this kind of situation, it literally just tell you that the situation is really, really, really dire, because you don't send an unprepared unit to war unless you have no choice. And I think that's the current situation for Ukraine. They have no choice. So which is why a 1.8 million with 200,000 troops is still totally never injured before does make sense, and it still does reflect on it's still a lot of people, 200,000, because 200,000 is basically almost the entire force of the initial army. In fact, 200,000 is like the full army for many countries. So it's not a small number, but in the grand scale of things, in terms of a war situation, this is not a lot. But 200,000 people means that you still have a lot of people you can take PR photo with. I just want to say. So you can take a lot of PR photos, and you can still look like you have a very strong army. But the reality might actually differ. So units are 20 to 40% strength, and then average age. This is the information dig out by Grok from mainstream media, from open source. So he said that estimated, the best guess now is that there is 400,000 to 500,000 troops on the Ukrainian side. So that is the estimate, the best guess. However, out of this number, only 300,000 to 400,000 is actually fit to fight at this moment. So that is the total total belief. The Ukrainians actually needs 1 million troops. However, they don't have it. So they are short of 250,000 to 550,000, which is, if this is a shortage, let's say we look at the lower end, okay? So because I said the front line now is, is not as man intensive, it's not manpower intensive as previous wars. So let's say they still need 250,000. That would explain why Zelensky and his fellow leaders, Ukrainian leaders, are talking about reducing the age of recruitment from 24 to 18, because that will probably be enough to fill up these numbers for now. But the thing is, this is only for now, and then it will be grind away, and then it will not be enough later. But for now, that's why they are thinking of this, because at this moment they are short of these numbers of troops to actually hold a proper defense. So situation is this. So how many troops now? Around 400,000 to 500,000 troops Ukraine currently have, which is not that far away from some of these numbers that is out there that we know of. Some on the higher side, I think, is 700,000. So tentatively, what they estimate is around 500,000. So this is DPA's estimate. They have, let's put on the optimistic side, 500,000 troops. The Ukrainians still have 500,000 troops, and they are still short of 500,000 troops. Essentially, and at least they need another 250,000 troops, and that's what they are trying to do. And honestly, this is only for defensive purpose. This is not for offensive. Defensively, they are still lack of 250,000 troops. If they want to go offensive, they will need more than that. So we have to put things into perspective in that sense. So yeah, so this is the conclusion, and so the conclusion: 1.8 million casualties, 900,000 dead, 700,000 Russian dead, 250,000 Russian dead. So yeah, and then Kursk on its own is 60,000, which is noted by the Russian Defense Ministry. So yeah, this war is human cost is staggering, and for Ukraine is terminal, according to Grok. So, and this is the video on the main channel. As you can see, the logo is black. So basically, I just summarized the thing again. So hopefully this is useful for you guys. So holy shit, it's 50 minutes. So yeah, I didn't realize I talked for so long. So yeah, this article took me a few hours to compile. So hopefully it's useful for you guys. And so thank you for watching. And I just want to say, there might be a reason why Trump is rushing seemingly for a peace deal. Because they have this thing, I'm just some nobody in Singapore, sitting on my armchair, doing this grinding of the numbers myself. Imagine the Pentagon experts, the real intel experts that is working for the US military. They probably will know better, because they have better intelligence, they have better estimates, they know the military stuff better than me, and they probably also come to more or less the same conclusions. So, which is probably the intel report that was told to Trump, and I think Trump, which is why is rushing for some kind of peace deal, because once the lines collapse, once the front line collapse in a great way, in a big way, then there's no much of a peace deal to talk about. It will just be a term of surrender, and when that happens, Ukraine is going to lose a lot of grounds, and we're going to see this happening on the front lines, on our mapping within the next 3 to 6 months. So, and the thing is that Ukraine is dragging it out, EU is dragging it out. I think it's going to end up really badly for Ukraine, and Russia is betting on Zelensky and Europe to drag it out. I can tell you for that. Putin definitely wants the West to drag it out. The more they drag it out, the more land Russia is going to conquer, and there's nothing Trump can do to help Ukraine get back those land. And the speed of the frontline change is going to get faster. So anyway, that's it. Very, very long conclusion, but this is a once in a blue moon thing. So hopefully that helps, and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next update.